Hi, welcome to Zeens and Roger. This tutorial is for a granny owl and it is a very quick project and a great stash buster. The written pattern is on my blog, the link will be below. Let's get stuck in straight away. For your owls you need scraps of yarn. For eyes you need some embroidery thread, buttons and felt and a needle. And then to stuff it you need actual stuffing. This isn't that, I haven't got any, I've run out, so I've just chopped up wadding. And then a piece of fabric as well. To start your owl I'm using a 3mm hook. You can, if depending on your intention, you can go up and down half a hook size, no problem. These ones I made with a 3.5. This guy is with a 3, so you can see there is a considerable size difference just by half a hook. It depends on your tension. If you've got a tight tension it might come up this size, loose it'll be a bit like this, or somewhere in the middle. To start your owl, make a magic circle, magic loop, call it what you will. And you're going to be working into that. If you don't like the magic ring you can always chain 4 and join that with a slip stitch to form your circle, and you can work into that. That's your magic circle. I think I went a bit fast, so I'll show you again. Wrap it around your fingers so it's like that. I mean I've got both ends held with my fingers so that it's nice, you've got the tension nice and tight. And then you can pull the loop closed a little bit so it's easier to work into just by yanking on the end. Then chain 2 and make 1 UK treble or US double, which is the same stitch, into the ring, and that is your first little petal. I say petal, we should call them feathers. It's your first owl feather. Chain 1, and then you want to make 7 more, and the next 7 are 2 trebles together, which is to begin your treble as normal, and then before you finish yarn over and go in again, yarn over, so you have 3 loops on the hook, and then pull through all those 3 loops to make your 2 stitches together. Chain 1, yarn over, go through your loop, yarn over and pull through, and chain 1. So you want to do that so you have 8 feathers into the circle in total. And as you can see I'm crocheting over my end as I go. See that? I'm always crocheting over that as well. And that enables us to pull it, pull the centre closed when we've finished doing this bit. When you have 8 petals or feathers, you can pull that ring closed and then join with a slip stitch to the top of the first feather. So just pop your hook in and slip stitch through, and that is your first round. The second round is using those same petals. Let's slip stitch into the next space, the first space, and then we're ready to start the next round. If you wanted to, you can change colour now so that its bottom looks like that. But for the ones I've made recently, I've actually done the second round in the same colour as the first, just because I didn't want that many colour changes. Chain 1, 2, chain 2, and then a treble. And again, that's counting as your first feather. Chain 1, and in the same space do another 2 treble together, 2 USDC together. So you're increasing, and by the end of it you'll have 16 feathers. And into the next gap between those 2 feathers you're going to do a pair of feathers separated by a chain 1, which is that. Chain 1, and do that all the way around. When you've gone all the way around, just finish it off with that last one chain, and then again slip stitch into the top of the first feather. And then at this point we can cut with remembered scissors, because I never forget my scissors. Just fasten that off. Psh. Okay, so that's 2 rounds. And then we'll start with some colour work. For, I don't know, I've just chosen 3 blue colours, but you can choose whatever you like. So how I like to add my new colour is to get a slip knot on my new yarn and then just join it into the space before my knot, before I fastened it off, and then slip stitch that on, and then you're ready to start with a chain 2 and a treble, chain 1. So we've increased on the round before, we're not doing any increases on this round, so it's just 1 feather in each space. So it's the same stitch as before, chain 1. So you do that all the way around, and you can choose to change colour each round, which I'm going to do, or you can keep it all the same colour. And whoops, the only time I like to keep it all the same colour is when I'm doing a snowy owl, which I haven't done for ages. And then you just stitch on little brown flecks after you've finished with your snowy coloured wool yarn. I might make another one of those nearer Christmas. So continue all the way around. Again, join to the top of the first. And I'm changing colour every round, so snip and pull through. As before, join the new colour with the slip knot on your hook. You don't have to do it like this, but this is just the way I like to do it. And it's the same as the previous round, as is the round afterwards, so I won't show you that one, I'll just come back once I've done that. But you will eventually see it start to build up at the sides for the owl body. I am at the end of round 6. Round 6 is a repeat of round 3. 3, 4, 5, 6, they're all the same. I've gone back to the first colour, and I'm going to stick with this one. Do whatever colour changes take your fancy, essentially. But I'm going to go back to the first colour here and use it for the remainder of the pattern. So finish off round 6. And then we're going to start round 7. So I'm going to slip stitch into the first chain space, and then I'm going to chain 3 and pop in a treble, US double, and then I'm going to put 2 stitches in each chain space, and I'm not joining them to make a feather, I'm just doing 2 straight up stitches, and I'm going to do that all the way around. When I get back to the beginning, I'll join with a slip stitch to the top of that 3 chain. So I'm finishing that round with a slip stitch. Here's the initial 3 chains, and in that top stitch I'm going to join it, and then chain 2 under the next space, a half treble and a half treble all around, and you do that I think for the next 3 rows, or is it 2? I can't remember. It doesn't actually matter. Again, it's quite flexible because you can have little squat owls by leaving out a row or 2, or slightly taller owls by adding in an extra row. I'm going to do 3 rows of half trebles before I fasten off. But essentially, you just go round and round and round in each stitch until you get back to the beginning, and then you join. At the end of the first half treble, half DC round, join with a slip stitch, like so, chain 2 and repeat that last round you've just done. First stitch is always a little bit tricky. And then it's a repeat of whatever round that was. I think it was round 8, hang on. Oh, I went a bit loopy then. Yeah, that was round 8, or the half trebles. 9 and 10 are exactly the same, and then when you get to round 10 you fasten off. I'll come back to that bit in a minute anyway. My owl body looks like that. And I've fastened off, leaving a decently long tail so that when the time comes I can sew it, stitch it up at the top, across the top. That'll be like the right side, that's without any joins on it. But before you get to that stage, I'm afraid you have to sew in all of these ends. If you leave them, they poke through and you can see them, and that's not very nice. So you've kind of got to sew them all in, I'm afraid. Sew in the normal way. I've got this horrible feeling I'm going to cheat and for demonstration purposes do a half-assed job. I think that's acceptable for one owl. So pretend that was sewn in really well and then snip off the end. You can save the ends, and if you have a massive jar of ends you can use those as your stuffing rather than buying any fibre fill or whatever. My needle's a little bit on the small side, so if I want to sew in all my ends for this tutorial I'm going to be here forever. Oh man, especially if that happens. You are best off finding a darning needle that actually fits yarn and then use it to sew in all of these yucky ends. Oh, the temptation is so strong. I'm going to cheat. Hang on. I've messed it up anyway. Right, don't tell anybody. Shh. I've just sewn in all my ends, okay? Done that. Right. So, there's your end for sewing in later. There we go. Get your piece of fabric and pop it inside your bird, because we want to stuff that. Oops. And you want this join to be on the side. So fabric in, and then whatever stuffing you've got. Ideally it's not chopped up bits of wadding because it's a bit humply bumply, but I haven't got anything else. You could always use a collection of chopped ends. Get a jar of those and they will perfectly stuff a bird. So shove that in and then neatly fold all that over the top. And then you can give it a bit of a squidge to reshape. And then we're going to sew across the top. So luckily I've already had my fight with the needle and won. And then pinching the top closed, go in the facing loops to stitch it shut. And by facing loops, it's just the two, so this guy's front loop and this guy's back loop, and then whip stitching over the top, and do that all the way along. And when you've done that, you just sort of tie it off and then sew in that end. You don't need this bit of yarn anymore once you've done this job. And then we can do the face and the wings and the little tufty ears. With your 3 lengths of yarn, fold them over a crochet hook and pull through the corner where you think an owl's ear is going to be, and then you've got a loop. Pull the ends through the loop and that's one tuft made. Do the same with these 3. Oops. He's gone. Right, he's back again. So just shove it through, hook through the corner, yank those through, there. And why do you keep jumping on the floor? They're a little bit long, so just chop and chop. Make them short. You can save all those bits for stuffing your owl later. Another owl, not this one. Right, so he's got tufty bits and now he needs wings. Chain 9. In the 3rd chain from the hook, make a UK half treble, which is a US half double, and then another half treble in the next stitch. You will notice that I am working into the back loop only of this chain, because when we're halfway we're going to turn it and work down this side as well. So in the next 3 stitches it's a treble, US double, and then a half, and then in the last stitch, I hope I'm in focus, 1 DC, 3 chains, and 1 DC, which is a US SC. And then, so I've turned it around, and I'm going to work in these loops here. So in the first stitch, it's a half treble, then 3 trebles, 1, and you can see that I'm crocheting over my end as I go, so I don't have to sew that in. 1, where did that go? 2, in you go. Gosh, they can be stubborn. Three. Oops. And then a half. Go on, in you get. I can't remember if it's another half and then a slip stitch or just a slip stitch. Yeah, another half. That would match the other side then, wouldn't it? Silly me. Didn't you get? Oops, and then slip stitch to finish. Then make sure when you fasten off, leave a tail long enough. Be focused, be focused. Leave a, I don't know, 15 centimetres, so about 6 inches or so, because you'll want to sew it to the owl. So make 2 of those. Fasten it off first. Oh, I've used the wrong. It's really embarrassing. That was the wrong end. Don't tell anybody I did that. There we go, that's the right one. That one can be snipped off for insolence. So that's a little wing, and you want 2 of those. So we've got 2 wings and a body. Before we attach the wings, I like to do the face first. And the face is some eyes and a beak. To do the eyes, I mean, you don't have to do it this way. You can use glue or change it up a little bit, whatever you fancy. But what I do is find 2 buttons that match and then cut out circles of felt. I cut 2 at a time so that they match, so they're the same. So you can see I've already done this one. I've started and I've sewn that eye together. That's ready to go on the owl body. For the eye, what you want to do is just make sure that it's as even as possible. And if it's not, then so what? Handmade is always a little bit wonky, and that's what makes it great. I use embroidery thread and I split it so I've got 2 or 3 strands rather than the whole thing. Again, that's up to you what you do. You can use the whole thickness of thread, or you can even use yarn, but it's easier with a normal pokey needle, and it goes through the felt easier if you've got a sharp needle. Then so you just sew your button on with a few stitches. Until I usually do just a couple in each cross, and then turn it over and just tie it off a bit. And then the next bit is with, ooh, I've just unthreaded it. I threaded it for ease of use for recording the tutorial, so I could just grab it, and I've unthreaded it. Okay, so here you have This is 2 strands of embroidery floss, embroidery thread, call it what you will, and then just go around like so. And so when you're done, you've got it going all the way around, and you can see what it looks like on the back. And then you want to sew your eyes to your owl. I haven't finished this one yet, but it will be like that. So work out where you want them to go, which is about here, and then stitch on. Hide your knot underneath. Just make sure those stitches catch the owl so that it stays put. And you do that all the way around, and you do it twice because you've got 2 eyes to do. The eyes are now in place. Because of the nature of the eyes and the other little bits and bobs, I would say that these owls aren't going to make the best toys for little kids because there's too many weeny bits. So use them as decorations rather than toys. Leave a strand like that. This is the start of the beak, and so I've just popped it in. And then create a triangle shape with your yarn, oops, like so. Where you can, hook it around that yarn so that it stays in place. Alright, so that is the triangle shape, and you want to fill it in. So use the yarn and the needle as you're colouring in medium. And just make, I don't know, I guess maybe about 8 or 9 ins and outs. Just keep going until it's filled in, essentially. And then when you're happy with how it's looking and it's all full up, make a couple of horizontal stitches across the top of his beak, like so. Whoops. Okay, and then just sew in the ends, and that's his beak. So you sew in this end and sew that in and snip, and that's the beak. And so then the last thing is just to attach the wings, and you can do that in a couple of different ways depending on what kind of wings you want. So I'll show you how to do that next. There are a couple of different ways you can sew on the wings. You can sew them on so that they are completely secured down, like that one. Or you can just sew on the tops so that the owl has little flappy wings, or somewhere in the middle. So with this one, it's just like a half sewn on. So just line it up, line the second one up. Let's have a look, that one's pointing sort of like that, starting at that point. Just sort of make sure they line up roughly. I hope that was clear. I wasn't looking at the screen, I was looking at the owl. And then make a few simple stitches so that it's just attached to the main body. It's not particularly technical, just a few sort of interspersed here and there, and that's done. Yeah. So if I do it to that, that's probably about enough. So I'm just gonna secure it down this side here. And I'm going to call that a day. I'm going to say that is done. There's one more thing we can do for this owl to turn him into a proper decoration, and that's give him a little hanging loop. So that's what we'll do next. Just get rid of that. Okay. Snip that off with scissors. Oh, there they are. They're hiding under another owl. Boom. Okay. Beep beep, a family of owls. So I'll just show you how to do this hanging loop, and then you've got yourself an owl. Hee hee. Okey pokes, where's my... So it's very, very simple. Once again, slip knot, and then poke your hook into the middle of the top of the head and slip stitch it on, and then chain 25. 1, 2, 25 stitches later, pop it back in the same place as before, and then do another slip stitch, and you're done. Cut that and pull it through, and there you have a hanging what's it. Oh, just found a darning needle with a slightly larger eye, and I'm going to, for the sake of speed, thread them at the same time. Just shove those in. And back and forth a few times with those, and you're done. Let's maybe come one more go if I can. There, boom. There is an owl complete. Don't forget to tag Zeens and Roger if you're posting your finished owls on Instagram, and please do upload your finished projects onto Ravelry. I would love to see them. And don't forget that the written pattern is on my blog, zeensandroger.com. Also, if you like this tutorial, don't forget to check out my other ones and put your thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again for another tutorial very soon. Cheerio, bye bye.